One of the more challenging aspects of using Posca pens are the paler colours. So colours like white and yellow are particularly difficult to use because it takes a lot longer to warm them up. Otherwise, they become a little bit transparent. So we're going to try a couple of things this week with our challenge, and that is how do you get on with the pale colour Posca pen? So we're going to use a couple of yellows. Make sure you prime them well. Make sure you give it a couple of coats of paint to make it really nice and flat on the surface of our drawing. But also, because they're quite transparent, we're going to use a really thin black pen to do some flicking in, so that we don't have to do any cutting out with those yellows. Otherwise, it's going to take quite a lot of time to cut those black lines out with a yellow pen. So yeah, welcome to Posca Club. What we're going to do is we're going to draw Earl of Lemongrab, who's a character from Adventure Time. Because we're drawing fruit all week, it made sense to kind of draw this character. Quite unique looking, just a couple of colours, should be fairly simple. Yeah, let's do it. My suggestion is we use, I'm going to use yellow ochre for the shadow of my character, and then I'm going to go in with straw yellow for the main part of the character. So they're the two main colours that we're going to use. Doesn't really matter whether you use straw yellow or normal yellow. I just like straw yellow. It's a little bit warmer, and the same with the yellow ochre. It's a little bit warmer than the regular yellows, and therefore I like it. A little bit of grey. We're going to use the grey for just a little tiny shadow above the teeth, just to make sure those teeth look like they're kind of set back inside the mouth. Talking of inside the mouth, we're going to use English green to go inside of the mouth. If you've got a PC3M khaki, whatever you want to call it, pen, that might actually be a better colour for this drawing. But I'm going to use English green because that's what I've got. All in 5Ms as well. I prefer to do all my colouring in, all my drawing with 5M pens. You can get loads done. They're just about detailed enough that you can get the little tiny details in there as well. And a full set of black pens. So I'm using a 5M, a 3M and a 1M down there. Like I said, the 1M is just going to be used for those little flicks so that we don't have to cut in too much. 5M is probably going to be used for a bit of a power line at the end. 3M is going to be my main choice of pen for the drawing today. You're also going to need, let's put them over this side, you're also going to need a sketchbook. I'm using an Art Gecko freestyle sketchbook. Perfect for Posca pens, scrap sheet of card just for you to prime your pens on. Just make sure your nibs are constantly wet, that kind of thing. Okay, are we ready to go then? Shall we go and put in, we'll go and grab our yellow first. I'm going to do all of our guidelines in this yellow. So if you remember, we've got a dark yellow, an ochre and a straw yellow, which is the lighter version. Go and use the lighter version first, okay? And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in two eyes. Everything's going to kind of fall out of place from where these eyes are. Now you want these two eyes to go kind of like as a pair in the middle of the page, because the character's looking that way. So you can have the back of the head over here. Character's also got a massive nose. You can have the massive nose over here, okay? So two eyes right in the middle. And let's go for something like this. Bit of a gap in there. A couple of eyes. You see that they're kind of like stumpy sausages. They're a little bit more oval. In reality, it doesn't matter what shape you do those eyes. This character's got a few different expressions, so you can get away with quite a lot there. Okay, let's go round the head now. What we're going to do is we're going to start at about that point, just on the edge, not right on the edge, but just kind of bring it in a little bit, like about 3/4 of the way across, quarter of the way that way. Going to start up there. We're going to go up all the way around the back here, all the way under, and then bring it up to about the same place. You're going to try and have the top and the bottom a little bit pointed, so it's got that kind of lemon look to it. Okay, so up like that, bring it down, and up the other side. So that is a much weirder looking lemon than I anticipated, but I'm going to stick with it. If you can, if you can have yours more lemony, and like so. Look at that. That's the top bit's kind of good. If you want to kind of flip that over so the bottom bit is kind of just as fat. I'm going to leave it as it is though. I love it when little kind of things go wrong and we can just see how we can make them work. Right, before we move on to the rest of the outlines, let's just go and quickly put a little knobbly bit across the top. So look, just here, look. Let's go and put in a bumpy bit across the top there. Nothing too extreme, just a little bump, you know, like lemons have. Something like that would be good. Okay, just a couple more lines we're going to put in. One is going to be the nose. Now look at the gap we've got here to the edge of the page. Ideally we want our nose to come out to the edge of the page and leave the same amount of gap this side. That's how big the nose is going to be. And it's going to be a nice pointy nose as well. Pointy, curvy nose. So kind of start about here. Look, what we'll do is we'll have it pointing down a little bit. So start about here, look. See how it curves, gets to that point, then we're going to bring it back. And you see, look, the position of that nose, I've taken out the whole of the bottom section of that eye. So you want those lines going across for the nose. You either want them above or below this eye line. You don't want them exactly on that eye line. It just makes things look a little bit more awkward if you have it exactly on that. So try and have it above or below. Last little line we're going to go and put in. Let's go and whack in a little sausage shape in there for a mouth. And I think that's it. Let's leave it like that. We've got that in. Okay, we're going to go and add a shadow in for this character now. So we've used our lighter colour. Let's go and grab the darker yellow that we've got, and we're going to go and put in a shadow with this darker yellow. Now we've got loads of elements that we want to go around whilst we're doing this. So the first place I would start is by going around the eye. Look. So we've got that eye there. Let's go from the top. All the way around the eye like that. Once you've got that, let's go and bring this line up. We're going to join it into this bit. But watch this. What we do is we're going to go back on ourselves, up and then over there. We're trying to create a bit of a shadow on this side. One more time, look. This time back on ourselves, curling all the way around, back up to the top. That's a great looking line. Let's try and do that kind of thing down the bottom here, nice and big. So it's going to come from there, curl round, curl under. I think that's created a nice shadow. Everything on the left hand side of that, let's go and colour in with this ochre. So first things first, let's get rid of that original straw yellow line, make that disappear, and then we can colour it in. Now when I'm drawing with Posca pens, I like to put the shadows on first, because then I like to get in with the lighter colour, and I like to chop out the edges. See these edges of these shadows? We're going to chop out those out to make them really, really sharp. And this is our opportunity to really play with making sure our pens are really opaque. Now remember what I said at the beginning of the session, that opaqueness is going to come from like really good prep of your pens. It's also going to come from having a light touch, so don't press too hard, nice and light, so that you get a thick coat of paint on. And maybe even like 2 or 3 coats in order to get that thickness of paint on there. It's a good opportunity to practice using these colours. Colours that I'll be honest with you, I normally avoid, just because they do come up a little bit transparent. Beautiful, that's step 1 done. So yeah, shadow is on. Let's go and put a little bit of a shadow in the teeth. This bit's going to be nice and easy in the teeth. We're just going to put a little line across the top, little line across the bottom. You only really need the top line, but we can do a bottom line as well. And this is just to make the teeth look like they're a bit further back in the mouth. So just here, look. And then I am going to do a bottom line as well. Just there. That's all we need. It's one stroke with a grey pen. Just a little suggestion. Okay. Let's get back onto the skin. What we're going to do now is we're going to go and colour in the rest of our lemon with the lighter yellow. So we've already got the ochre in there. Should be dry by now. If it's not, give it a few more seconds to get dry. And then go in with your yellow. And we're going to colour in the rest of our character with this yellow. Now, as we do this colouring in, we are going to, for one, we're going to leave the eyeballs and the mouth. Don't do those bits, obviously. But we are going to kind of use it as an opportunity to sharpen out these edges. Now, remember what I said about a nice light touch. A light touch will give you much more, put much more paint. Much more paint on the paper. If you press hard, what's going to happen is you're just going to get a really thin coat. Now you can see that's just about taken. Just there, might need to give it one more coat. There's just a little tiny bit of ochre showing through. Leave it to dry though, even though look, I can still see a little bit of white poking through just there by the looks of it. Leave it to dry. Don't try and work on it yet. Wait until it's dry and then work on it. Let's work our way down here. And again with nice light touches to sharpen that point off. One thing you'll notice is that I am working in a white sketchbook. A white sketchbook is the best way to use yellow pens. Yellows, oranges, those kind of colours, pale colours. Because the white kind of acts as a primer and you get quite a nice finish to it. If you were on cardboard or on any other surface, you might get too much of the underneath showing through. So this is why we always use white. Now on that, a little top tip is if you wanted to use a pale colour on cardboard, you can always give it a little coat of white before you put your pale colour on. And that coat of white doesn't need to be particularly flat and opaque. It's just acting as a little bit of a primer for the colour you're putting over the top. Okay, look, these bits at the top are looking quite nice. Let's get around this top part of the eye first before I move the camera down. Just so that you can see how sharp it's looking. In fact, whilst we're in here, let's just go and add in a little eyebrow look. So you see the thickness. I'm going to move down at this point. Look. You see the thickness of this bit from the white of the eyeball to the shadow. That's like the rim of the eye. So let's go and do that kind of thickness. Add in a little eyebrow over there. Okay, let's keep on moving our way down. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm colouring in is I like to outline the area first. And then colour it in. Main reason for that is because when I'm outlining, that's when I'm thinking about what I'm doing. And when I'm colouring in, that's when I'm just zoning out. All I'm doing when I'm colouring in, all I'm doing is just concentrating on not going over the lines. And even if I do, it's not the end of the world. These are Posca pens. Get away with anything with a Posca pen. We're in that nose. Let's go and do that nose. So the nose does go across the eyelet, just there. So let's go and colour all of that in. See how we're getting rid of a lot of these guidelines that we put in. This is why I like putting guidelines in with pen, because they do disappear. If you put them in with pencil, sometimes you get a little bit of pencil residue coming away in your paint. It can get a little bit messy. So here we go. Let's get into the top of the mouth, and then I'll move the camera down again. Last little section then, let's cut this bit out, cut this bottom bit out. Do it in 2 goes if you can't get it all, that whole stroke in 1 go, so just kind of cut that top bit out. We'll flick in, you can see where you need to pick it up from just here. Chop that bottom bit out as well. Let's colour in the rest of this character. And you see what I mean by this straw yellow. It's just a little bit warmer, a little bit more orange in it, I think, than a regular yellow, which can be a little bit harsh. It's also a little bit more opaque, I find, than a regular yellow. Keep priming your pen. You want to constantly wet nib. If your nib gets dry, you've left it too long. So always try and get that nib wet before it gets too dry. Before it even starts to get dry. You don't want to be thinking about it when it's starting to get dry. You want to be thinking about it before it starts to get dry. Right, there you go. There's our second layer of colour on. Let's zoom back, have a little look. It's kind of getting there, isn't it? If you wanted at this stage, if your lemon character is looking a bit weird from a shape point of view, this is the time to change the shape. So if you want to bring that bit out a little bit more, make it wider, use the ochre to make it wider at the back, use the regular yellow to make it wider at the front. Do whatever you need to do to get yours just right. I'm going to leave it like that, and might use this as a Korp Academy remix session where I improve or upgrade one of my pictures, give it a fresh look with some new Posca pens. If you're interested in that, Tuesdays at 5 o'clock on my socials. I usually broadcast that live. Just take one of the pages from my sketchbook and throw in some extra pieces on it. Okay, this is looking good. What's next? So we've done the grey, we've done the yellow. Let's go and get in the mouth. We're going to do some English green this time. So grab that English green. Now, the way we're going to draw these teeth, in the original character, there's like gaps between the teeth. So you could draw the teeth like that. That would look great. But the way I want to draw the teeth today is I want to draw them so they're kind of joined up, they're overlapping each other. So watch this. What we're going to do is we're going to do like a triple bounce. From the side here, triple bounce going all the way to that side. So we go 1, 2, 3, like that. But with those 2 bounces in the middle, we're not going to touch the grey. We're just going to stop short of the grey. Okay, so watch this then. So like about here, look. 1, 2, 3. So the first one and the last one touch the lip, but the 2 bounces in the middle don't touch anything. Okay, that's the aim. Let's try and do something similar at the bottom. Look. 1, 2, 3. There's our teeth. It's going to make a lot more sense when we colour in the rest of the mouth. Look, so just go around that edge there. Join that bit up. Colour these bits in between. Around the other side and colour that in as well. And again, that's something that would look great in khaki. But if you haven't got khaki, the English green will also look very, very good. Let's have a look. There we go. That's where we're at. Last bit. Last bit of colouring in, anyway. Let's go and grab our black PC3M. I'm using my 3M. You might want to use a 1M. We're going to outline the pupil first, then colour it in. It's a big old pupil, so we've got a lot to colour in. We're also one of the other lessons that I've done this week is the Hattie Stewart cherries, the cheeky cherries. We're going to use the Hattie Stewart style pupils for our character as well, just because they look really cool. I like the way they look, and I think they'll suit this character. Okay, so let's get into those eyes then with this 3M. I'm using, if you've got an old 3M and it's a bit blunt, then definitely go down a pen size. Use a 1M because you want these lines to be sharp. In fact, no, I'm going to stick with a 3M. I started with a 3M. I'm going to stick with a 3M. Careful with the mouth. The mouth is still wet. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a little V shape. Now we are going to have a pupil, a big pupil all the way around there. But over this side, let's start off with a V shape, about halfway up our eye. Just there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to join the top of that V, that part there. We're going to join that up with this part here, but we're going to go the long way round. So watch this, all the way up. Down the other side, watching the side of the eye. The side of the eye is our guide. Up to that point. Finish this Hattie Stewart style off with a capital F up here, look. Capital F, just whack that in there for a couple of extra reflections, and then the rest of this pupil can be coloured in. Yeah, you can see I might just have to get in there. I want these bits to be really sharp, so I might just have to get in there with the 1M later. Let's get the bulk of the work. Let's get the heavy lifting done with the 3M. Let's go and put that same eye over on the other side. Now it's worth noting that you can see from the actual character. You can see from the character, for me you can see anyway, that the light source is coming in from here because we've got the shadow over here. That's why I've put the reflection on the right hand side as well, so it looks like the reflections on that side of the pupil. So we're going to copy that, place it in just there. So let's go in with that V shape first, and then going around the outside. This is one where, look, just goes off, tucks in behind that nose. We are going to outline this character, so don't worry too much about the edges not being perfect. Let's put that capital F in. And then colour the rest in black. Again, knowing that, safe in the knowledge that you can jump in with the 1M or your 1MR, just tidy up any of these bits. For me, Posca drawing is done in 4 stages. The first 2 stages are all about, being messy. Second 2 stages are all about tidying up. We're still in the first 2 stages. And those first 2 stages are guidelines, which we did with the Posca pen, and colouring in, which is what we're doing now. When I look at that, I think actually that is all coloured in. There's not much else that we need to do with that. So let's give that a few seconds to dry, and then we'll move into stages 3 and 4, which is where we start tidying things up. And 3 and 4 are about throwing on an outline, throwing on some finishing touches. Finishing touches are the best part of any drawing that you'll do. Okay, one thing. Let's just do one more thing before we go in with the colour. I really want to add some extra little ripples. So you see around the top there, look, just where we put that knobbly bit in just there, just go and put in, look, an extra little bump on that side. And the same on here, look, extra little bump on that side. Do it now. Should have done it earlier, really, because we need to make sure that that's dry. But what we'll do is actually we'll jump into the face first. We'll do the outlining in the face, and then we'll come back to that bit a little bit later. Okay, so let's concentrate on this face. So this for the face, I'm going to again do heavy lifting with the 3M. And then we'll use the 1M a little bit later to just tidy everything up, okay? Okay, let's go for it. First things first. Let's start over here, work our way across and then down. So around the eyeball. If you're smooth with your pen, then great. If you're not smooth with your pen, then just embrace that wonky line. I'm going for a wonky line here. I'm not too fussed about it. It'll be okay. We're going to add so much to it that those wonky lines will all kind of disappear. Let's move our way across. We're going to put the nose in now. One thing to really practice as much as you can, it's always going to feel a little bit unnatural, is drawing from right to left. So putting your pen down there, dragging your pen across to the left. Main reason, the benefit of doing that is you can actually see where your pen needs to go as you bring it across. If you're going the other way, if you draw the same way as you write, then your hand is usually hiding where you need your pen to be, and it all becomes a little bit of guesswork. This way, even though it's unfamiliar for some of you, it's definitely worth practicing. Just bring it all the way across into about there. Remember, embrace those wonky lines. They're all fine. So we're going around there. Let's do the underside. And you kind of want these nose lines to stop. You see, right in between the eyes, look, that point, that's kind of where you want it to stop. Now, the actual character on the TV doesn't really have much in the way of a nostril, but we can add a nostril in if we want. So we'll probably do that in a few seconds. In fact, I'll do it now. You can decide whether you want to add it on yours. I kind of like the idea of a nostril. So for that, all we're going to do is just go round, hook it up. There's the hole. That's the bit you put your finger in. There we go. But then give it that extra nostril look just by going around there. I like that. Let's go around the other eyeball. Make sure this tip of the nose is dry because you're going to be resting your hand there, but around the other eyeball. Now what you'll notice as well as you're going around this other eyeball is that you might have a little bit of yellow just sticking out the side there, just because your yellow pen was thicker than your black. So as long as it's sticking on the outside, that's fine, because we are going to power line this. So we're going to thicken up that outline right at the end of the session. So that little yellow line will disappear later. Don't panic about that. Let's get into the mouth. Next, as soon as we've done the mouth, we'll go and outline the rest of the body. Mouth. So concentrate on this bit. There's lots of weird things going on in the mouth. Just look at that outside sausage shape, and let's go and go around that. Go around once. Go around twice. Don't worry if it's looking wonky. Wonky lines are good. If you have got like big wonky lines, you've got these little white gaps in there, just make sure you colour those in. And the style of drawing that we're going to go for is going to really embrace those wonky bits. Once you've got the mouth, go and do the teeth. Remember how I said about the teeth? What we're going to do is going to overlap them or underlap them. So we're going to draw this tooth on this side first, all the way across from gum, from lip to lip, like that. And then just work your way across, do the others, look. Same for the bottom set of teeth. Just working your way across, do that one over this side first. For me, it's just a nice way of doing the teeth when your character is facing in one particular direction, and you still want to do kind of nice looking teeth in there. Let's zoom out. That's how we're looking. Pretty weird. Weird enough, that's good. Let's carry on. Let's start blowing it out. Let's start putting some of the main lines in as we blow this character out. Okay, so let's do this back piece first. Now you remember that extra little bump that we put in there. The reason we put that bump in there is because I want to just give it like a little triple ripple kind of look across the top there. So let's there we go. Let's start at the back here. Go up, follow that line, and a little flick in when you get to that little ripple. On that ripple, let's just do another little flick in. Look, just up there, little flick in. Tiny little flicks, so that if we need to, we can extend those flicks using the a really thin pen, the 1M. One last time, let's just take it to the top. We will bring it down again as we do the other side, but I just want to get down now. I'm going to do the bottom half of that back line. So here we go, down here. This one's nice and simple. Just follow that line down. Just kind of don't start just here. When you start your line, start a little bit further up. There we go. See, not particularly complicated, that line at all. And now we're going to finish off the rest. Now this is where you need to be careful. You should be alright because you can just move your sketchbook around. But this is where we need to be a little bit more careful. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go from the eye. And a little flick in. Let's go up the head. And a little flick in. Don't forget to double line everything you do. Nice and quick with your double line, and don't wait for it to dry before you double line it. Do it while it's still wet. If it starts to get a little bit dry, then wait until it's completely dry. In fact, the one thing I'll say about using Posca pens and going over the top of them is you've either got to do it while it's wet or while it's completely dry, but nowhere in between. Okay, we've got that extra little ripple up. Again, just a small flick in there because we'll tidy that up when we use the thin pen. And then one last time from the top. Let's just join it all together. So one thing I've really noticed on there, which is kind of really unsatisfying, is you see this like point that we've got out here. It's looking a little bit too high. It should be down here a little bit more. So what we'll do in a second is once it's all dry up there, we'll start shifting that down. Okay. Ideally, what you want is that point to be where this line is pointing across there. So we're just going to shift it down. Okay. If you've got yours in the right place, that's brilliant. We don't need to worry about it. But I'm going to shift it down so I can show you how to do that as well. Okay, last little bit here. Let's go from the bottom and up into the eye. You'll notice I am double lining it. I don't really need to double line it because I'm committed to doing a power line around the outside, so you don't really need to double line it because we're going to go with a real fat line around there. Okay. But there we go. That's kind of what it's looking like so far. I don't think it's looking particularly lemony at the moment, but that's good enough. That's a great place to be. Let's go and grab our 1M. So yeah, 1M or 1MR, they're pretty much the same thickness. The only difference is the 1M gives you is a little bit scratchier. so it gives you a lot of feedback. You can feel it going across the paper. The 1MR is a little bit smoother, so you won't get those little flicks coming up, but it does kind of glide across the paper a little bit too much for my liking. So you use whatever pen you're comfortable with. I'm only using 1M because that's my preference. Okay, let's start at the top. Let's work our way down with this thin pen. So anywhere that you kind of want to just add some extra little flicks, look, just bring these lines, real delicate touch. I'm not going to get too close in there. You don't even have to like join the line up. You can have little breaks. Bring a line in just there. Not going to do too much in there because I know I'm going to start playing around with those two colours and bringing that down a little bit. Let's do all the important lines first, then we'll go over with some like secondary lines, less important lines. So the next important lines are going to be around the eyes. Let's move down to those eyes. The first one is, we've got this eyebrow over this side. We kind of want to do the same over this side. So just following that line around there, look. Thicken it out in the middle. So we've got that 3M kind of thickness, and then just flick it out into nothing. Same over this side. Let's try and flick that out into nothing. What we're trying to do here is trying to flick the pen so that we don't have to taper in using this colour. You can still taper in using this colour. It will still work, but I prefer, when I'm using yellow, I prefer to try and get the line right first time. Okay. We're going to flick a few little lines around the eyes. I always like flicking lines this way, look. Just because I think it makes your character look nervous or tearful. I just think it's a great way of adding a big chunk of emotion to the character without too much effort. Let's work our way down. In fact, let's go and tidy up those pupils. Remember I said I wanted to just make these edges a little bit sharper. Just going to make those a little bit sharper. Same on this side, look. It's looking better for already. In fact, before we do the bottom of the eyes, let's just flick a little line out the nose here. So that nose, it's quite fat. Let's taper it. Also changing the angle of it because I wanted to taper it and give it a thin end, but I needed it to stay in the middle in between the eyes. If I tapered it over this way, then it would have made the nose look wonky, like it's growing out from next to this eye. So just a little flick up in the centre there will be good. Let's also do these little bits. Look, just a little flick there, a little flick there. Nothing too much. Dot and dash it if you're struggling with flicking. Let's flick a little line back on the eyes here. Look. And then also down here, same way as we did around the top of the eyebrow. Let's just throw in a little line there. Just be careful where you're positioning your hands. Thicken the middle part of that line out to be like a 3M thickness, and then taper the ends as much as possible. Okay, let's keep on moving our way down. What we're going to do is just add a few little creases around the mouth. Now, creases like just there, look. Just coming out the side there. But also anywhere that you've got like wonky bits in your line, you can also add little creases in there as well. So I've not got too much in the way of wonky bits, but let's just put a little crease there. Look. Have a little bit of fun with those creases. Down at the bottom here, let's put a little double-ended flick off. Fat 3M kind of thickness in the middle. Nice and flicked off either side. You see how that just looks like a little bottom lip that we've got in there now. Let's work our way down just a little bit more. Throw in a chin. Should we do a butt chin in here? Let's do a little butt chin. That looks pretty weird. It's a little butt chin, but you can do whatever kind of chin you want in there. It can just be a normal curve going that way. It's just to break up, because we've got a big area there with nothing going on. It's just to break that area up a little bit. Okay, we're looking good here. This is looking quite nice. Let's go and start moving this little bit up here down a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the actual brown line in, or the yellow ochre line in the right place this time. And then what I'll do is we'll taper out the wrong bit, or we'll cut out the wrong bit later. Okay, so we'll jump up top. And remember I said that it wants to be kind of there. Like that. In fact, it doesn't look too bad with two lines like that. Now I've got this new one down the bottom here. I might not need to take out quite as much across the top as I've got in there. Okay, let's get back in with that thin pen. What I want to do with that thin black pen now is I want to put some little, this is a lemon character. Let's make him look more like a lemon character. We're just going to put some little dimples around the outside edge over here. Okay, so little things like that. See how it just gives a suggestion of some dimples going on. Let's do some down the bottom here as well. So little curves in there. Try and keep it as random as possible. I know that's quite a difficult thing to do. Keep it as random as possible. Just a little line at the bottom there just to open that up. And then we're just going to whip around our character. Just put some little quote marks in, just some little bits to kind of break it all up a little bit. We can even go in these eyes, watch this. With some little lines in the eyes. I think we're getting there quite nicely now. Let's keep it going now. I'm going to put, this bit looks a little bit plain, so I'm just going to put a few little, just 3 little dimples in there. Okay, we're at a point where we're close to finishing off. Let's grab that yellow. Let's tidy up that little bit around the top. Let's put a power line on it, and then we'll revisit, see how we're getting on. But up top, remember I said I didn't really need to take that entire line out anymore. So I'm only going to take a little bit of it out. But also remember I said about when you're cutting in using the paler colours, it's really important that you only press gently. Only press gently, you might need to give it 2 layers still. You press hard, you're just going to put a thin layer on. So let's just go in there, look. The real gentle touch. You're almost letting the paper touch the pen rather than the pen touching the paper. That's exactly what we need. Let's finish this character off. Let's go and put a power line around it. Now, another thing you could think about doing is maybe bringing some of these colours into here. I always like kind of just swapping some colours over. See, just some extra little dimples and things like that. You could even try bringing some of this paler colour into the ochre. It's going to be a bit more challenging, remember, nice and gentle. Barely touching it, that's how you're going to get the most opaque finish. Let's put one up here as well. There you go, I kind of like the way that looks. Let's finish this off then. Power line around the outside. The main reason for the power line is, for one, the outside line for me just looks a little bit too thin, a little bit too weak. But also, you remember that little line that we had, that a bit yellow showing up just there. I want to get rid of that as well. Now be careful, you've got loads of wet bits all over your page, so just always be thinking every time you move your hand, right, where am I going to place it? Make sure there's nothing wet there, because you don't want to find out it's wet by putting your hand in it. Let's go on the other side. Remember, the power line is just to go on the outside. Doesn't go anywhere else. Don't bring it inside your character. Just put it outside. I mean, it wouldn't be me if I didn't put a couple of drips on, would it? Let's just throw a few drips on, maybe a small one on there as well on the nose. And there we go. Let's leave it like that. I'm quite happy with how that's turned out. That's our own little version of Earl of Lemongrab. Yeah, let's sign it. Last thing to do is sign it. I'm going to sign it with my ochre pen. Sign it with your ochre pen, wait for that to dry, and then sign it with the thin black pen over the top. I'm actually going to do this on the session, okay? So you're going to have to wait while we finish this bit off. I might just put in some extra little marks while we're waiting. Look at those two little curves on the lip, do you see that? It's a beautiful way of just making it look like the lip is a bit more round and poking out. Maybe we've got some little black spots. Haven't done any black spots, actually. Let's just throw a few in. I always like a few little tiny black spots in the character. Signature's dry, so yeah, like I say, just draw your signature in with a fat pen. And then watch this, what we can do is just with a thin pen, we can just go over the middle bit. Obviously wait for it to dry. That's why it's not working particularly well for me, because I didn't wait for it to dry properly. And there you go. You see, nice little signature. Fat pen and then a thin pen. Just remember, when you're doing the fat pen lines, the first lines, scrunch them all together a little bit. Otherwise, your black lines, when you go on with them, they just look a little bit too spaced out. Okay, there we go. I think that's a finish. So yeah, my second challenge for you. So first challenge was always about getting over the difficulties that come with using the yellows, which are very transparent colours. My second challenge is what about doing this character with some completely different colours? Let's see what this looks like in purples. See what it looks like in emerald and aqua. Or maybe you want to bring some blues, or just go completely crazy and go for two colours that just don't usually work together, and see what happens. Right, nice one. Thank you for taking part. I'll see you in the next video.